Hello everyone. Today, I'm going to tell you another incredible story on the legends in English. An English inspirational story that will help you improve your English and inspire your heart. It's about a man who was small in height, soft in voice, but giant in courage and honesty. A man who led India during one of its toughest times, with calmness, faith, and integrity. A man who believed that true power lies not in wealth or position, but in truth, simplicity, and sacrifice. His name was Lal Bahadur Shastri, India's second Prime Minister. A leader who taught the world that humility can be stronger than force. You may have heard the slogan, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, Hail the soldier, hail the farmer. Those were his words. Simple, yet powerful enough to move a nation. This is not just a story of a political leader. It's the story of a man who rose from poverty, fought for freedom, served his nation selflessly, and became a symbol of honesty and inspiration for generations to come. He was a man who believed that serving others is the highest form of patriotism. His life shows us that even an ordinary person can do extraordinary things with courage and truth. His simplicity, discipline, and love for people made him one of the most respected leaders in Indian history. By the end of this story, you'll learn that greatness doesn't come from money or fame. It comes from character, truth, and dedication. So let's begin the inspiring journey of Lal Bahadur Shastri, the man of peace, courage, and simplicity. Lal Bahadur Shastri was born on October 2, 1904, in a small town called Mughalsarai, in Uttar Pradesh, India. Yes, the same day as Mahatma Gandhi's birthday. And just like Gandhi, Shastri's life, too, became a message of truth and simplicity. His father, Sharada Prasad Srivastava, was a humble schoolteacher and later worked as a clerk in the revenue department. His mother, Ramakdulari Devi, was a simple and deeply spiritual woman who raised her children with love and discipline. When Lal Bahadur was just 1 year old, tragedy struck. His father died suddenly of the plague. The family lost their only source of income. His mother, heartbroken but strong, took her little children to her father's home in Mirzapur. Life was not easy. They lived in poverty, often struggling for basic needs. But those hardships became the foundation of his character, teaching him humility, patience, and the value of hard work. Even as a child, Lal Bahadur showed signs of deep honesty. Once, while returning from school, he accidentally tore his friend's book. The next day, he apologized and offered his own book in return. When his mother asked why he gave away his only book, he said, "Because it was my fault, Ma. I must make it right." This sense of responsibility and truth would guide him throughout his life. When he was 10, he used to walk miles barefoot to school because his family couldn't afford shoes. Once, during heavy rains, he lost his books in the flood water. But he didn't complain. Instead, he worked extra hours at home to rewrite the notes by hand. People who knew him said he was small in size, but there was a light of honesty in his eyes. Despite all odds, he completed his education with the help of scholarships and support from relatives. But his real education came not from books. It came from life itself. He was deeply inspired by the words of Swami Vivekananda and Mahatma Gandhi. He often read their speeches and believed that every human being must live for a purpose higher than himself. Their ideas filled him with courage, truth, and faith in humanity. When Gandhi started the freedom movement, young Lal Bahadur decided he wouldn't live for himself, but for his country. At the age of 17, he joined the non-cooperation movement led by Gandhi. The British authorities demanded that students must not boycott schools. But Lal Bahadur quietly left his government school, giving up his chance for higher education in protest. His family was worried. They asked, "What will you do without education?" Quote, he replied calmly, "If the nation is not free, what is the use of my education?" Quote, that was the moment when the young boy from Mughalsarai became a soldier of freedom, with no weapon except his courage, truth, and love for the nation. After leaving school to join Mahatma Gandhi's non-cooperation movement, Lal Bahadur Shastri stepped into a life of struggle and service. He was still a teenager, but his mind was filled with one dream: to see India free. He joined the Servants of the People Society in 1921, founded by Lala Lajpat Rai, where he learned about honesty, discipline, and national service. There, he studied not only political ideas but also human values. He spent years spreading awareness among the people about the British rule, untouchability, and the importance of unity. He was soft-spoken, yet his words touched hearts because they came from truth and conviction. During those days, he also continued his education in a Gandhian way: simple living, moral thinking, and dedication to service. He later studied at Kashi Vidyapith in Varanasi and earned the title Shastri, which means heir, scholar. From that day, he was known as Lal Bahadur Shastri. He lived a life of extreme simplicity, wearing khadi clothes, walking barefoot to meetings, and eating simple food. He believed that a leader must live like the people he serves. In the 1930s and 1940s, when India's freedom struggle reached its peak, Shastri played an active role in the Salt Satyagraha and Quit India movement. He was jailed several times by the British, spending nearly 9 years in prison in total. But even prison became a school for him. He used that time to read books by great leaders and thinkers: Gandhi, Tilak, Lincoln, and Lenin. He once said, "The jail was my university. There, I learned about humanity, patience, and leadership." His honesty and discipline impressed even his fellow prisoners. Once, while in jail, he was allowed to go home for a few days because his daughter was seriously ill. He was not given guards. He was released on trust. Sadly, his daughter passed away after the funeral. Though everyone told him to stay, he quietly returned to jail on the exact date and time he had promised. When the jailer saw him, he said with amazement, "Shastri Ji, we trusted you, but you have shown us what true integrity means." That single act of truth made him a legend even before independence. In 1947, when India finally became free, Lal Bahadur Shastri had no property, no wealth, and no personal ambition. All he had was a heart full of love for his nation and a spirit that never gave up. He once said, "My strength lies not in power or wealth, but in truth and simplicity." And that belief guided him throughout his political journey. After independence, he joined the government of Uttar Pradesh under Pandit Govind Ballabh Pant. There, he worked as parliamentary secretary and later as home minister. People quickly noticed something unique about him. He was calm but firm, humble but decisive. He treated everyone equally, whether a peon or a senior officer. Once, when he was home minister, he received news that a police officer had slapped a poor villager. Shastri immediately went to the police station, suspended the officer, and told him, "Power should protect people, not harm them." Such was his fairness and compassion. He lived so simply that he often traveled in third-class compartments even as a minister. Once, when an officer asked him, "Sir, why don't you use a car?" he smiled and said, "Because the people who elected me walk. I must walk with them." He never believed in showing off. His house was small, his clothes plain, and his meals minimal. His wife, Lalita Devi, once recalled that even when he became a minister, they couldn't afford new clothes for their children. But Shastri always said, "We may be poor, but we will live honestly." Every stage of his life showed that true leadership is not about position. It's about character. By the 1950s, his reputation as a man of honesty and efficiency reached Delhi. He became one of the most trusted colleagues of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, India's first Prime Minister. Nehru once said, "Shastri is a man who combines the humility of Gandhi with the determination of Nehru." And soon, destiny began preparing him for the greatest responsibility of his life, to lead the nation. As Shastri grew older, his desire to serve the nation became stronger. In 1921, when Mahatma Gandhi called upon students to leave schools and join the non-cooperation movement, young Lal Bahadur, still in his teens, made a brave decision. He left his studies midway and joined the movement for India's freedom. His family was worried. They were poor. Education was his only path to a stable life. But Shastri had already made his choice to live for the nation rather than for comfort. He participated in protests, distributed leaflets, and spread the message of Swaraj, self-rule. Soon, he was arrested for the first time. The British officers looked at the thin, quiet boy and mocked him. "You? A revolutionary?" Quote, but they did not understand. Revolutions don't need muscles. They need courage. And Shastri had plenty of that. After his release, he resumed studies at Kashi Vidyapith in Varanasi and earned the title Shastri, which means scholar. From then on, the world would know him as Lal Bahadur Shastri. His life remained simple, almost ascetic. He used to wash his own clothes, travel by bicycle, and refused luxuries even when they were available. Once, when he became a minister, his son used the official car. Shastri immediately paid the car fare from his own pocket, saying, "This car is not for my family. It's for public duty." That was Shastri. Honest to the core, disciplined, and humble, he lived by the principle that public service is a sacred duty, not a privilege. He believed that real power comes from character, not position. And slowly, this character made him rise through the ranks of Indian politics. From a freedom fighter to a leader trusted by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru himself. He worked with quiet determination, avoiding publicity but achieving great respect. In every meeting, he would listen more than he spoke. But when he did speak, his words carried weight, truth, and compassion. He had seen hunger. He had seen inequality. And deep inside, he carried one mission: to build an India where no one sleeps hungry and every person lives with dignity. It was this vision that guided him when he became the Prime Minister of India after Jawaharlal Nehru's death in 1964. A small man with a soft voice, but a giant heart that beat for 400 million Indians. The nation wondered, can he handle the pressure? Can this humble man lead a country facing war, poverty, and crisis? And soon, the answer came, not from speeches, but from action, courage, and selfless leadership that inspired an entire generation. It was the year 1965. India was still young, a nation finding its feet after centuries of struggle. On one side, there was poverty and food shortage. On the other, there were enemies at the border testing India's strength. At that moment, standing at the center of it all, was Lal Bahadur Shastri, a man barely 5 feet tall, soft-spoken, humble, yet unshakably strong. When Pakistan launched attacks across the border, people were afraid. The nation still remembered the trauma of 1962, when India had suffered defeat against China. But this time, the story was going to be different. Shastri didn't shout. He didn't show anger. He simply gathered his generals, understood the ground reality, and said firmly, "Force will be met with force. We will not rest until every inch of our land is safe." The soldiers at the border were ready. But back home, India faced another crisis, a severe food shortage. The country was dependent on imports, and drought had made things worse. People were told to skip one meal a week to save food for the poor. And Shastri didn't just give orders. He followed them. Every Monday, his family's kitchen remained closed. No food was cooked. When asked why, he said, "If my people can fast for the country, why can't I?" Quote. His simplicity moved millions. It wasn't leadership from above. It was leadership from within. And when the war intensified, he gave a message that would echo through generations. A message that united the nation like never before. Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. Quote, "Hail the soldier, hail the farmer." In those 4 words, Shastri connected the 2 pillars of India's strength: the soldier who protects, and the farmer who feeds. His speech was not just patriotic. It was spiritual. It reminded every Indian that real victory lies not in conquering others, but in standing together for one another. Under his calm leadership, Indian soldiers fought bravely. They crossed the border, captured key areas like Hajipur Pass, and showed the world that India would never bow down again. The war ended with a ceasefire. But India had won something greater than territory. It had won back its confidence. And in every village, in every soldier's heart, in every farmer's field, one name shone like light: Lal Bahadur Shastri, the man who made the nation believe again. After the 1965 war, the world admired India's courage and Shastri's calm yet firm leadership. He had proved that greatness doesn't need loudness. It only needs truth, faith, and action. But war, however victorious, always leaves behind wounds. And Shastri wanted peace. He believed that the true test of leadership is not only how you fight, but how you heal. So, when the Soviet Union invited both India and Pakistan for peace talks, Shastri agreed. He traveled to Tashkent, in present-day Uzbekistan, in January 1966, to sign a peace agreement with Pakistan's President Ayub Khan. The talks were intense. Both sides carried pain and pride. But Shastri remained composed, patient, and polite, speaking less, listening more. Finally, on January 10, 1966, after long hours of discussion, the Tashkent Agreement was signed. A promise that both nations would stop fighting and return captured territories. That night, the world saw him smile. A gentle, peaceful smile. The smile of a man who had fulfilled his duty. He had protected India, won a war, and still reached out for peace. But destiny had one final twist. Just a few hours later, in the early hours of January 11, 1966, Lal Bahadur Shastri was found dead in his room. The official cause was declared a heart attack. But many questions remained unanswered. There were no Indian doctors present. His body had blue patches, and his family always suspected foul play. Even today, his death remains one of the greatest mysteries in Indian history. When his body returned to India, wrapped in the tricolour, millions gathered in silence, not just to mourn, but to honour a man who had lived with honesty and died with dignity. He left behind no wealth, no property, no mansion, only an old khadi kurta, a spinning wheel, and an unshakable legacy of truth. In a time when leaders often seek power, Shastri taught that true power lies in simplicity. He was the Prime Minister of India, yet he remained the most humble servant of its people. Even after death, he continues to whisper through time. The strength of a nation lies not in its weapons, but in its character. Lal Bahadur Shastri may have left the world early, but his values continue to live in every honest worker, every humble leader, every patriotic heart. He showed that leadership isn't about luxury. It's about service, sacrifice, and simplicity. Even as Prime Minister, he never changed his lifestyle. He wore simple clothes, ate simple food, and traveled with minimum security. When he needed a car for personal use, he took a loan. The Prime Minister of India, taking a loan to buy a Fiat car. That car still stands as a symbol of integrity. He once said, "The basic idea of governance, as I see it, is to hold the society together so that it can develop and march towards certain goals." He didn't want fame. He wanted progress with honesty. He believed India's real heroes were its soldiers and farmers. That's why his words, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, are not just a slogan. They are a vision of a self-reliant, strong, and united India. Shastri's life teaches us that you don't have to be rich to make a difference. You don't need a loud voice to be heard. Truth is always louder than noise. You don't have to be tall to stand tall. Integrity gives height to character. He lived like a saint and ruled like a servant. He faced every challenge with a calm smile and every victory with humility. Today, when corruption, greed, and selfishness threaten societies, the life of Lal Bahadur Shastri shines like a moral compass, reminding us that greatness is not measured by what you own, but by what you give. His honesty inspired future leaders. His simplicity touched every Indian home. His courage during the 1965 war made the world respect India. Even after his mysterious death, his image remained pure, untouched by scandal, untainted by greed. How many leaders can we say that about today? His life was short, only 61 years. But his message is eternal. If each one of us lives with honesty and works with dedication, no power on earth can stop our country from rising. And he didn't just say it, he lived it. His journey, from a poor boy walking barefoot to school to the Prime Minister of India, is not just history. It is a lesson, a mirror, and a motivation for every generation. Because in his story, we see the power of simplicity. In his silence, we hear the voice of truth. And in his sacrifice, we feel the soul of India. Lal Bahadur Shastri's life was like a quiet flame. It didn't roar, it didn't blind, but it shone steadily, guiding millions even after it was gone. He was not a man of grand speeches or dramatic gestures. He was a man of truth, discipline, and silent strength. In a world full of noise, he proved that gentleness can also be powerful. He never claimed to be a hero, yet he became one, not by words, but by deeds. When others sought comfort, he chose sacrifice. When others wanted fame, he chose service. When others talked of power, he spoke of peace. And that's why his story still touches every Indian heart. Because it reminds us that true greatness lies in humility. He was a leader who walked without shoes, yet left footprints on history. He owned almost nothing, yet gave a nation everything. He spoke softly, yet his words still thunder in the hearts of millions. Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. Quote, he didn't build monuments of stone, but monuments of values, truth, courage, simplicity, and self-respect. Today, when we see corruption rise, when honesty seems rare, when the race for power drowns humanity, remember Shastri. Remember the man who proved that purity of heart is mightier than the sword. He taught us that real revolution begins not in the streets, but in our hearts. When we decide to live truthfully, to work sincerely, and to serve selflessly. So, whenever you feel small, whenever you feel unnoticed or powerless, remember Lal Bahadur Shastri, the man who rose from nothing and became the voice of an entire nation. Because you don't need wealth to lead. You need will. You don't need power to inspire. You need purpose. And you don't need a crown to be remembered. You need character. He once said, we believe in peace and peaceful development, not only for ourselves but for people all over the world. And that belief, that gentle, honest belief, still makes his spirit eternal. So, friends, this was the story of Lal Bahadur Shastri, the second Prime Minister of India, a legend of truth, humility, and courage. He may have been small in stature, but he stood taller than mountains in the eyes of the world. Let us not just remember him. Let us live his message. Let every heart say with pride, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. Quote, hail the soldier, hail the farmer, and hail the spirit of Lal Bahadur Shastri. Quote, because true tribute to him is not in words, but in our actions. When we work honestly, help others selflessly, and keep our country first, always, that is how Shastri Ji's dream of a strong and united India will live forever. ND that, my friends, was the story of Lal Bahadur Shastri, a symbol of honesty, courage, and simplicity. His life reminds us that greatness begins with goodness. So keep believing, keep working, and keep serving. Because legends are not born. They are made by actions. This is The Legends in English. Inspiring every heart.